Whew. I managed to make it back to base safely. Thanks to Remy, of course. One thing ended up catching me off guard, though. When we arrived, I'd asked her to wait outside while I cleaned my room, but she flat out refused.
だって前に来た時に汚いっていうのはよーくわかったし、今さら片付けたって無駄だよ。
Fair enough.
かっこつけなくてもいいって、私とタクの中でしょ？ね？
But it's very interesting that he's like, okay, wait, let me clean it up a little bit first. But that's another positive thing right there. That's another little bit of positivity for Takumi. Or yeah, this is good. This is actually really good. And her response is just like, it's accepting. Again, she's trying to be very. It sounds like she's being patient with him, or she is just legitimately that accepting. Yeah, but I wish I knew what exactly that meant. Remy was completely absent from my memory, meaning I didn't really know her. Every once in a while, I'd find myself taken aback at how ridiculously friendly Remy was whenever she talked to me. It wasn't unpleasant or anything, but it only made it all the more clear how different we felt about each other. On that particular note, was Remy serious about there being no point in me cleaning my room? The floor was littered with empty boxed lunches, and the bed was piled high with eroge cases. Eroge cases with not exactly the most safe for work cover art. Either Remy had nerves of steel, or she had no reason to feel on edge around me, but trying to figure out which it was only made me feel even more confused. Remy, unaware of how distressed I was, went to sit on the sofa, looking earnestly over the lyric booklet included in the Phantasm CD. Oh my god, that just... CDs that, remember, they had the booklets to all the lyrics. Oh my goodness. Just reminded of all that. I plopped down in my chair and the tension flooding my body left soon after. My mind was completely maxed after spending most of the day terrified, yet I wasn't feeling that exhausted. Maybe that was thanks to Remy being there. Her presence is having a positive effect on you, and it's starting to lower some of your anxiety and stress, which is good.
さて、どうしよっか。
Closing the lyric booklet, Remy stretched her arms out high and sent a smile my way. What should we do? What were we supposed to do? She hadn't come here to hang out or anything. She just wanted me to lend her a CD. She was doing me a favor by staying with me, but what the hell were we supposed to actually do? Did we have to do anything? Well, again, you could probably gauge some stuff here, like show her a little bit of ESO, the game that you play, maybe. If we were in an eroge, we'd probably jump straight into a hentai scene, but, wait, stop! No, I really shouldn't be thinking about that right now. Good on you. Stop thinking that. Even under the best circumstances, it was still a really tense situation, being alone in my room with a 3D girl and all. If I were to have some unwelcome delusions, I might suddenly shoot back to reality and end up saying something weird. Just, come on, stay grounded, Takumi. Just stay grounded, okay? Silence. Remy was staring vacantly at the various manga scattered on the floor and the eroge piled up on the bed. Awkward. I knew that most of the awkwardness would dissipate if I just said something, but the only subject I could think of were video games and anime. And, I doubted that Remy knew anything about either. Wouldn't it be more logical for Remy to say something? She was the one who'd said she'd stay with me and all. This was going to be a bad time if she actually expected me to lead the conversation. Jesus Christ, I really did suck with 3D girls. I was grateful to her for staying with me, but I couldn't handle the sheer unrelenting silence. The fact that the room barely had any light was also an issue. It gave off the illusion that the room was dark for some lewd reason. Unable to take it anymore, I turned to face my PC. I needed to look up something. I'm thinking about it at school. It might end up giving me a hint as to how I'd get my hands on a D-sword. Is it possible to translate images pictured in the mind to actual images? Ooh. Music shift. Using what Senna had told me about VR technology and people being electronic devices as a base, I began researching the subject.
何してるの?
Rimi stood up and approached my desk. Should I explain? But how to go about it? It'd take forever if I told her everything. Come on, man.
ねえねえ、何してるか教えてよ。
Seeing no reaction from me, Rimi poked me in the back with her finger. I couldn't just ignore her, right? Yeah, it'd never be that easy.
君はその妄想が現実になるって信じられる?
Okay, that's a good start. As I entered a few keywords into the search bar, I spoke without looking at Rimi. Instead, I pretended I was talking to Seirotan.
妄想が現実に? 無理でしょう。もしそれができたら、人はとっくに万能になってるよ。
True. That's a good point, actually. Delusions created a world in which any action, no matter how unrealistic, was possible. If they were to become reality, the unreal would become real. Unreality would become reality.
それがどうしたの?
それに近いシステムがアメリカで特許あるんだ。
Oh, kind of starting to talk about what Senna had told him.
冗談でしょ。
I could feel Rimi's doubtful scoff on my back. So in response, I showed her the image of the patent that Shiho had found for me.
これは?
特許の証拠写真。
本当に?
And now you're getting her interested. Rimi leaned forward and brought her face close to the monitor. She was right up next to my face, peering intently at the screen.
私英語って苦手。
Ah.
すごいね、タク。英語読めるなんて。
She was way too close. She was so close I could see the glittering of her eyes as they reflected the light of the monitor. I got flustered all over again.
ねえねえ、どういうことか教えてよ。
Seemed like it piqued her interest. I tried to avoid thinking about how close she was to me and attempted to focus on Seirotan and the monitor instead.
生まれながらに盲目の人でもビデオカメラみたいな映像機器を通すことでそこに映る景色が見えるようになるんだ。これ豆知識な。
ビデオカメラが目の代わりっていうこと？
そう。VR 技術って言うんだよ。
へえ。もし本当だったらすごいな。
But it is. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Senna told me there's already been successful tests.
でも機械を使って目が見えるようになるのと妄想が現実になるってどうつながるの？私頭悪いからよくわかんないや。
As I explained it to Rimi, I tried searching for a number of keywords that might have been related, but I couldn't find anything. Even so, I kept on trying and typed more and more keywords.
映像機器に映る景色も脳内で思い浮かべた妄想も電気信号だから。
This is interesting watching Takumi try to explain it through his own methods, what Senna had explained to him.
逆に考えるんだ。脳内に電気信号を送るんじゃなくて脳内から電気信号を送るって考えるんだ。
Also, this background music while he's trying to explain this is actually kind of fitting. All I got were filler responses. She probably didn't understand a thing I was saying. Probably. I couldn't be bothered trying to explain everything in detail, so I just stopped trying. I had to concentrate on my research. It didn't really matter if she understood it or not. After all, it was nothing more than a hypothesis I'd come up with. Rimi was still making noises and nodding to herself. Time to ignore her. I've been doing a whole lot of searching, but I still wasn't able to find any data to confirm my hypothesis. I tried taking a different approach, this time focusing my research on the patent itself. I went and checked a foreign website that Shio had told me about, one that listed American patents. Once I was there, I began to look for patents that would fit what I had in mind. Oh, hello. Electrical wave tower, person, satellite, data processing receiver. Okay. After following a few links, I actually found an image with a similar vibe to the one Shio had sent me. At a glance, though, the patent was clearly different from the VR apparatus one. I should read it right away.
神経信号パルスを遠隔地からモニターし、それを映像および音声として再現する装置と方法。
Remotely monitoring, altering nerve impulse signals, and reproducing them video and audio output.
Oh.
That was exactly what I'd had in mind! I involuntarily leapt out of my chair.
これすごいぞ。
すごいの？何が？
簡単に言うとこれ他人の思考を盗撮する技術だ。
思考を盗撮。
You know what's scary? Actually, no, it would probably be a good thing. Well, actually, no, it would be a bad thing. Okay, there are some arguments to be made about a potential technology that could read people's minds. So let's look at it this way. Let me vie through the positive things. A positive thing that could derive from reading people's minds is that it would basically eliminate the need for potential lie detectors, which, let's be fair, lie detectors aren't even really all that reliable. I mean, there might be some like FBI level lie detectors that are more accurate, but let's be fair, they're not really admissible in court from what I understand. But again, a positive thing, that technology that could effectively read people's minds would be able to sort out actual criminals. Let's just say, instead of submitting yourself to a polygraph test, you're submitted to a mind reading test. And that would be able to, and if you're asked a question, the device would be able to read your mind and kind of tell the truth from there. Like actually reading their minds. That would be able to solve a ridiculous amount of crime cases, potentially making it where only actual criminals get locked up or punished and innocent people aren't thrown in prison. That could be a possible thing, a possibly good thing from mind reading. However, reading minds is also a method of being incredibly invasive, taking away a person's privacy. This is a negative thing, where innocent people could have a large amount of their privacy taken away from them, their autonomy, a large amount of stuff that necessarily shouldn't be brought out into the public, because it is just an invasion of someone's basic rights. That's a potential negative whenever it comes to mind reading. You can make positive arguments, you can also make negative arguments. But it overall, regardless for positive uses or negative uses, the technology behind the idea of reading a person's mind is, to me, legitimately terrifying. Actually, fuck, I just realized there's another negativity that you could do with reading minds. Finding out a person's weaknesses and using those weaknesses against them to torment them. That is another horrifying possibility whenever it comes to the idea of the technology of mind reading. To sum it up, the audio and video people were imagining in their heads could be stolen by using a certain apparatus. Moreover, it even said that nerve impulses could be monitored from satellites. That meant it was possible to spy on a subject's thoughts no matter where they were on the planet.
本当にそんなことできるの？ SF 小説とかそういう類のものなんじゃ？
特許ってそのシステム自体が完全に仕上がってないと絶対に取得できないんだって。
That had been made clear to me when I'd been looking up stuff about patents earlier.
だからこれもちゃんとシステムが確立されてるってことだよ。
This wasn't mere fiction. As long as you had the technology or technological capabilities and the funds to build it, you could implement it at any time. Before, Senna had told me that
ある意図的な情報を神経パルスへコンバートすることが可能なら、人の五感すべて、さらには人の意志そのものもコントロールできるんじゃないか。
I couldn't find a source for that, so it remained as mere conjecture from her. However, for my own theory, there were sources. Why would something so insane not have spread all throughout Japan? This clearly deserved a Nobel Prize, if not something even bigger. I continued my research, this time looking up the mind-reading keyword. Then, I found a record of a particular lawsuit from America.
また英文だ。頭痛くなってきそうだよ。
Yeah, English is a horrible language. It was a really long document, so even I had a hard time reading it. It probably would read poorly, but I decided to use a piece of English to Japanese translation software, or Google Translate. The contents of what was written there could be summarized like this. Legal record, Plaintiff N.K. Raven. Defendant, the United States Department of Defense, CIA. Plaintiff's allegations. I become aware that my mind has been read via the use of a peculiar device. My monitored thoughts are then recorded and subsequently transferred to an unknown location using satellites. The aforementioned satellites have taken me hostage. I've been the victim of constant unending attacks, regardless of the time of the day, all of which were carried out by those very satellites. 1. Tracking. 2. Mind-reading telepathic surveillance. 3. Monitoring all bodily signals. 4. Biorhythmical attacks. 5. Oral attacks. 6. Physical debilitation. Since the latter third of December 1990, I have been forcefully shown artificial created dreams during my sleep, some of which include video, audio, and even voices. From February to May 1992, I have fallen victim to several biorhythmical attacks, all of which serve to torture me via the induction of pain and or psychological harassment. Recognizing that these attacks were aimed specifically toward myself, beginning February of 1992, I began to record the following information in a journal: the date, time, and contents of any particular agonizing psychological attack I could remember. The biorhythmical attacks were aimed at every single region of my body. The pain, torture, and psychological harassments were coordinated in order to cause discomfort, fatigue, and agony to specific regions of my body, or in some cases, my entire body. The main regions affected are as follows: chest, visual system; abdomen; brain, to induce sleeping disorders; brain, to show me artificially created dreams;
思考監視、思考盗撮、しかも国家ぐるみ。マジ？
あ、私これ知ってる。何年か前に映画で見た。
That was fiction, though. But what was written on these records very much wasn't. There were two possibilities. Either the plaintiff was a total mental case, or the entire thing was factual. It was difficult to figure out where exactly the boundary between the two was. Taking into account the patent from earlier, it could very well be truthful. So, Senna and Ayase weren't total mental cases. Particularly Ayase. Back then, Ayase had cloned herself right before my very eyes. I hadn't witnessed the exact moment when it had happened. All I knew was that when I turned around, another Ayase was there. She'd also shown me how she pulled her D-sword out of thin air. It had been neither a hallucination nor a delusion. After showing me something like that, there was no way I could still label her as a mental case. However, Ayase had also said this.
これも君の妄想よ。
That strange phenomenon, had it Had it been my delusion coming to fruition?
理想度は力を持つ人の目にしか映らない。君には私の剣が見えているでしょう。それが意味するのは一つだけ。
Maybe that was what Ayase had been talking about when she'd mentioned the power. A power that projected delusions into reality. Maybe I had that power. Oh! No, no, no. I was probably just jumping to conclusions. Okay. Maybe I had that power by causing delusions to come into reality. Immediately comes up with a delusion. Let's test this theory. It was a total sketch to think that a psychic ability existed just because something, a system using scientific means was able to reproduce delusions as images.
見つけなくちゃいけない。自分自身で。方法なんて私にもわからないの。
But what if the method to obtain a D sword was by using such a psychic ability? So, let's suppose I had that ability within me. It might have been worth a try. Okay, let's see. Leaving Rimi to stare at the PC screen with her eyebrows furrowed, I picked up the toy D sword sitting in the corner of my room. I went to stand in the center of my room and brought my sword to eye level like I was an ESO character. I closed my eyes. I tried to conjure the image of a sword in my mind. I naturally imagined it to be something similar to the beautiful, sinister swords that Senna and Ayase had, each complete with a sharpness that could sever anything it touched. Having delusions was my specialty. After all, I had all sorts of delusions on a daily basis. If I wanted to, I could recreate every single detail both vividly and clearly in my head. Once the image was as precise as it was going to get, I planted my feet, gritted my teeth, and tried grasping the sword with the power I now held in my hands. Become real, 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 become real. I prayed inside my head, devoting all my thoughts toward that one single wish. What I'm holding is a real D-sword. It's not fake. It's real. I infused the strength of my entire being into the blade. Come, reveal yourself to me. Grant me salvation. Protect me. I slowly opened my eyes. The sword I was holding hadn't changed whatsoever. It was still the same cheap-ass toy.
そりゃそうだよな。
There was no such thing as an evil eye-esque psychic power that turned delusions into reality. It was way too chuny. What was I, 5? I felt ashamed to have ever thought I held such a power. Heaving a long sigh, I lowered the sword. But as I did, I sensed a gaze behind me. I could feel chills on the back of my neck. Goosebumps rose across the entirety of my body. The gaze again? That was a clear sign. A sign that right at that moment someone was watching me. Don't look at me. I wasn't gonna turn around. Like I'd ever turn around. Not only had I sensed a presence, but I'd heard a voice as well. Though to be precise, it hadn't exactly been a voice. It had been closer to a sigh. Don't tell me. I might have made a terrible mistake. I slowly, ever so slowly, turned around. And there was Rimi staring right at me. So that was it. No wonder the sense of presence had been more intense than usual. Granted, that only made sense, considering I wasn't just feeling like I was being watched, I was being watched. This was definitely going to get confusing. Oh god, had Rimi seen me go full Chinibuyoi? Brandishing a sword and all that from start to finish? I was gonna die from embarrassment. Except something was off about her. Rimi's brow furrowed and she stared at me without blinking even once. However, it wasn't me she was looking at, but the object I held, the toy D-sword. Why did she look so serious? It felt like she was an entirely different person from the one that had been getting all confused about patents earlier. Oh, here we go. An unpleasant memory flashed through my mind. Rimi was on my side. She was supposed to be. However, I still hadn't solved the mystery surrounding her. Did Rimi know something about D-swords? With a gulp, I nervously called out to her.
たく
Her gaze still fixated on me. Rimi opened her mouth. Her voice was stifled, devoid of any and all emotion.
その件だけど
Rimi was my ally, wasn't she? She wouldn't betray me like Yua did, would she? If even Rimi betrayed me, I'd...
捨てた方がいいと思う
Oh?
どうして
My voice nearly cracked. Did Rimi know something after all?
だって
Mimi's gaze finally moved, but this time it landed squarely on my eyes. I hurriedly averted my own. What was she going to say?
だって
It's silly.
もう高校生だし
You're supposed to be a high schooler. Yep. Rimi suddenly broke into a grin, a very mischievous grin. The abrupt change in demeanor left me speechless.
そりゃ男の子っていくつになってもそういうおもちゃが大好きなんだなってのはなんとなくわかるけどさすがにそんな大きなおもちゃ一人で部屋で振り回してるのはどうかと思うよそれが許されるのは小学生までじゃない
Oh.
でもタクの個人的な趣味を私の前で披露してくれたってのはちょっと嬉しいかも
Oh, thank God.
私にだけ秘密を教えてくれたみたいで
You... God, this is... Yua had such a horrible effect on him. Oh my God. What the hell, man? Gotten all scared for no reason.
そもそもそれどこで買ってきたの高かったんじゃない
1万円渋谷の雑貨屋で
へえ1万円か安いのか高いのかわからないけど
Oh, thank God.
でもそんな大きなおもちゃが普通に売ってるんだね私そんな大きなのを直接見たのって初めてその雑貨屋さんに売ってるっていうのは誰かに教えてもらったの
Yeah, she really wasn't gonna let it go. Was she interested in these kinds of swords or something? Maybe Rimi was totally Chinibuyo in disguise. So the one who'd been making fun of me for having a sword actually wanted one herself? Tsundere much.
自分で調べたネットで
ネットかすごいな何でも情報が手に入るんだね私は全然ダメパソコンなんてろくに使えないよ
Huh.
でその件って流行ってるの
なんで
タクはどうしてそれを買おうと思ったのかなって
Maybe I should just tell her the truth. If she was going to stay by my side moving forward, maybe she'd end up helping me search for a real D-sword in the future. If that was the case, it might be better to just tell her everything now and get it out of the way.
これは偽物だけど本物があるんだ
本物
Rimi tilted her head puzzled.
本物を持ってる人を僕知ってるんだ2人いる同じ学校の女子
Uh-oh.
女子ね女の子がこんなおもちゃを欲しがるかな
I don't know.
本当なんだ。それにおもちゃじゃない。
あ、ごめん。
本物は光るんだ。それにすごい存在感で。僕それを探してる。それさえ手に入れれば僕は救われるんだ。
救われるって。
Remy looked quite puzzled, but I was dead serious. Not to mention a D sword would be a powerful tool to confront Shogun.
それで
I wanted to say that I needed her help to find it. However, when I thought about what I could even do if she said no, I grew too scared and anxious to say anything. I dropped the fake sword on the spot and sat down on the sofa. With a sigh, I closed my eyes. Would Remy offer me her help in order to find it? If she did, everything would turn out okay. But I knew how unrealistic it was to expect her to go that far. Up until now, Remy had always come dashing to my rescue whenever I was in a tough spot, almost like she could read my mind. In that case, then maybe I...
とにかく、もし本物があったとしても、それこそ買ったりしちゃダメだよ。今タクが持ってるのはおもちゃだからいいけど、本物ってことは銃刀法違反になっちゃうんだから。
I was about to ask, like, because America is pretty fucking lax whenever it comes to just random-ass people buying guns, and weapons and all of that stuff, like... Fun fact, I've actually got some replica swords, not real ones, except for one. Only one of them is a real sword, and I keep that locked under tight. But, I've always been curious about, like, these sorts of laws in other countries, and from what I understand, like, gun laws and stuff like that are incredibly strict in Japan. Like, they have legitimate guidelines and stuff like that to even own so much as a handgun, I think. Yeah, but we're not gonna get into that conversation. No, wait, never mind. Novel, that's what we're, yeah. My hopes were crushed instantly. What an insane disappointment. Then again, Remy's reaction made sense from the POV of an average person. These past few weeks, I'd encountered so many inexplicable things, I was nearly at the point where I was ready to believe everything that Senna and Ayase had said. Maybe Ayase was right. I had to find a D-sword entirely on my own.
それでタク、
I felt Remy sit down next to me.
その本物の剣を持ってる女子って誰かな？
Her voice came from very close by. She was right next to me. It was just the two of us in an enclosed, dimly lit room, and we were sitting right next to each other. Emergency! Everyone! Battle stations! Emergency!
タクに女子の知り合いが私以外にいたなんてちょっとびっくり。もしかして彼女？
So that was where she was going with this. Could it be Remy was trying to seduce me? The only possible conversation that could result from this topic was one centered on romance. After I told her the truth, she'd give me her confession, and then the mood would start getting really hot and heavy, and then... Oh god, I couldn't do this. I wasn't even remotely prepared for this. I opened my eyes and frantically shook my head. Both Ayase and Senna were mysterious creatures. Not to mention absolute mental cases. Schizo didn't even begin to describe them. I'd have moe'd over them if they were 2D characters, but I'd never moe over 3D shit. Especially with Senna. Talking to her just scared me. It wouldn't surprise me if violence was just part of her MO. I wanted to stay as far away from her as possible.
そっか。ちょっと安心したかな。
Huh? Oh no. No. You are not ruining this with another crazy-ass delusion. Flag tripped! We've had 2 positives. If we go any further, I imagine it's going to go a little bit too crazy, because now we're starting to rely a little bit too much on the delusion. So let's tone it back a little bit, okay? We'll just stay normal. Stay normal. Just stay normal, Takumi, okay? Oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, my full body froze in place. She clearly said that on purpose, right? Was she suddenly hitting on me right now? Judging from the flow of this conversation, there was a good chance that Rimi had me right where she wanted me. How should I answer? Should I just come out and say exactly what she wanted to hear? Yeah, surely nothing bad would come from that. But I wasn't sure I had the confidence to go out with a real girl. Don't worry, we're just normal. I was lost about what to do, so I opted to subtly examine Rimi's expression. Come on, sitting like that was cheating. And while she was clearly wearing a mini skirt, she was also holding her knees as she sat so... I can see your panties, Saki Tata-san. Actually, depending on the angle, it almost looked like she was completely commando. Stop! Against my better judgment, my eyes directed themselves to the home of her thighs, the V-zone, desperately called forth my rational side to suppress my lust. The way she was sitting reminded me of the cover of a classic moe eroge, titled Free Sister. In a limited edition of its anime adaptation, there was also an illustration where the heroine sitting exactly as Rimi was, now thinking of one of those boxes labeled Free Kittens. The illustration was irresistibly moe. I even had as my PC wallpaper for a while.
Taku.
Thank God!
Hi!
Oh God, I was acting suspicious, wasn't I? No shit. Though to be fair, 3D girl was hugging her knees and tilting her head as she looked right at me. What was I supposed to do? Control yourself, dum-dum? If she kept acting so cute, I was gonna die of moe overdose, even though she wasn't even 2D. In contrast to my blatantly libido-fueled thoughts, the words Rimi spoke were...
Taku は自分の未来を考えたことある?
What? Have you ever thought about your future?
例えば、人を含めて全ての生き物は生きてるだけで何かを傷つけてるんだよ。
What? She looked very deep in thought. Was she trying to say something here?
わかる?
だから
ね。無理しないでいいからね。
Oh, okay. Okay. She was going from a pause. She was like, "Hey, you're fine."
Huh?
Did she mean I didn't need to force myself to go to school? That I should stop playing ESO? Beyond was reasonable. Stop being a total addict and try to live a healthier lifestyle? Or was she implying that I shouldn't hold back whenever I was struck with lust or let my instincts take hold? Not that. Well, that was that last one. Rimi stretched as far as she could, then eagerly rose to her feet. The hem of her skirt fluttered in front of my face.
私、喉乾いてきちゃった。何か飲み物ある?
Far too much soda. I stood up and headed toward the fridge. I peeked inside. I had some half-finished cola, but I'd drunk directly from the bottle, so it probably wouldn't be the best idea to give it to Rimi.
ないなら買ってこようかな。コンビニって深センの駅前にあったよね。
I felt Rimi stand up behind me.
ちょっと行ってくる。
Oh, wait, come back! Don't leave me!
Oh.
Don't leave me alone! She gave me a big smile and then left me without waiting for my response. Being alone with a girl really did make me nervous. Especially with how Rimi sometimes did things that made my heart skip a beat, whether she was aware of it or not, though in all honesty, she probably wasn't.
くんかくんか
What? I sucked in the lingering scent of the air. I could sense the remnants of a floral scent wafting through the room. This was the smell of a girl. Remy smell. Oh my fucking god, dude.
最低だ。
Yes, you are. I sat in my chair, dejected at how low I'd sunk, unable to do anything but cringe at my vulgar deed. I should be terrified of Shogun and Yua, but here I was soaking in complete ecstasy. While Remy went out shopping, I went back to researching the patent in mind reading. When I reached my computer, I noticed that Grim had entered the chat room and was looking for me. Nighter-chan, dinner's ready. Seriously, I got new info. Come on, kid, chat with me, please. Needing as usual, I see. Hello? Nightheart! You there, Nightheart? I read that in the wrong order. I don't care. I sighed and reluctantly entered the chat room. Oh, look who finally decided to show up. You're too slow, Nightheart. Thanks to that, I've entered Whose Eyes Are Those Eyes mode. Damn it, what the fuck was Whose Eyes Are Those Eyes mode? Grim obviously just wanted to use the phrase for the hell of it. Even though he knew I hated seeing that goddamn thing. I always freak out whenever I saw it. What kind of new info? New gen, obviously. It happened, bro. The 5th case! What? Of course. I felt the usual depression I always felt whenever I heard about new gen, but on the other hand, I was also bewildered. I was sure that Shogun and Yua would target me this time. My fate had been delayed, it seemed, though I wasn't sure whether or not to be happy about that. Want to know the deets? It's on Taboo homepage! A quick search should tell you everything! What time today did it happen? Not today! They found the body last night! But the victim died the day before!
待て待て
This time was seriously insane! The dead guy's brains were removed! What? Without warning, Grim started telling me the details of the case and I began to panic. I was beyond done with all this gory shit. I didn't want to hear about any of it. If I got word of it, I might imagine myself getting brutally murdered in the same way. Even though I still hadn't found out how to get a D-sword. And yet Grim continued mercilessly. It was seriously freaky, dude. What do you think the case of death was? Drumroll, please. Emaciation, which means he was alive even after his brains were removed. The repulsiveness of it all sent chills down my spine. I wrapped my arms around my body. I didn't want to hear anymore. Spare me, please. I'm begging you. My life already went to shit a long time ago, so please. Apparently, he was in a state kind of like brain death. He might have been like that for over a week, just sitting there brainless. He obviously couldn't eat or drink, so no wonder they died of emaciation. I already named the case, Numbskulls. Netizens that really are epic at names, so this part's hilarious. Get this. The victim was a psychiatrist. The psychiatrist had their brain removed. Actually, what the fuck levels of irony? No. Psychiatrist? The moment I saw that word, my heart rate skyrocketed. I might have been overthinking it, but I had to check to make certain, but I also didn't want to. After hesitating on and off for a while, I eventually went to the homepage of Taboo and opened the news article reporting on the Numbskull incident. Fuck. Early morning on the 23rd, the body of 41-year-old Takashina Fumio was discovered in the streets of Shibuya Ward, Tokyo. The victim, Dr. Takashina, was a psychiatrist at Tokyo General Hospital and also found in Shibuya Ward. The TMPD have released the cause of death, saying that the man died via emaciation due to severe malnutrition. As well as this, Dr. Takashina's head was found to have received a clean cut along the top of the skull, and his brain was removed. The authorities claim it is possible that he survived in a state akin to brain death long after the removal of his brain. The investigation revealed that Dr. Takashina had not shown up to work ever since the 10th of this month. Ever since last month, Shibuya Ward has received immense public publicity regarding the string of grotesque murders known as the New Generation Madness. The Shibuya Police Department are investigating these murders under the possibility that they have all been committed by the same culprit. The fucking doctor's dead.
なんてことだ。なんて。
The victim's name was Takashina Fumio. Dr. Takashina. Dr. Takashina had been killed. He was provoking me. Shogun was blatantly provoking me. To do that, he'd killed the only doctor I could rely on just to set an example.
そんな。 助けて、誰か助けてくれ!
I let out a scream. My mind was in complete disarray. I felt like I was on the brink of snapping.
やだ！死にたくないよ、死にたくない！リミ、助けて!
I searched for Rimi. I frantically looked around the room over and over. She wasn't there. Why wasn't she there? Because she just went out shopping. I lay down on the ground, clutching my head.
僕を助けて、リミ。助けてよ。どこにも行かないで。頼むよ。
Jesus. Someone responded to me. Shocked, I looked up to find Rimi standing right beside me, holding a convenience store bag.
リミ。
She'd come back. Thank goodness. Relieved, I held out my hand. Rimi crouched down and embraced my hand with both of her own. Her hands had been cool when she'd touched me before, but now they felt so unbelievably warm.
ここにいる。私はここにいるから。怯えないで。
Using her finger, Rimi wiped my tears away with a gentle smile. How pathetic could I be? I wasn't a man at all. Showing how terrified I was. Crying and screaming, all in front of a girl. And yet, even while knowing how pathetic I was, she still said that she would stay by my side. Right now, this warmth I felt was the only thing keeping my mind from shattering. Until I got a D-sword, I never wanted to let her go. God damn. Put away some of the negative traits from Takumi, but that was a particularly incredibly powerful set of scenes. This kid is losing his fucking mind, and Rimi is there just now acting as this sort of anchor to keep him grounded right now. And notice that. He didn't give in to his unhealthy obsession by saying, Seira, save me. The only time he even brought up Seira was that whenever he was talking to Rimi, he tried to imagine that he was talking to Seira, which literally gave him a bit of a boost in order to hold and carry a conversation. This time right here, though, he was begging for Rimi to save him. Damn! However, now we're clearly in a different perspective. Whenever night fell, Miyashita Park always found itself engulfed in a peculiar air. Whose eyes are those eyes? 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 In the center of the park stood a large group of people packed together. There must have been no less than 100 of them. Most of them seemed to be in their teens, with some wearing high school uniforms and others, particularly girls, wearing fashionable casual clothes. Within the crowd was an otaku-esque young man with glasses and a Gonguro high school girl, the latter of which was a fairly rare sight in this day and age. From an outsider's perspective, one would think that they were attending some kind of event, but upon closer inspection, it became clear that their behavior was anything but normal. They were all looking at the ground, their eyes unfocused and empty. Even though quite a number of people were gathered here, none of them conversed with each other. They simply stood there, frozen in place. Every last one of them wore the same faint smile, all while murmuring something under their breaths. A phrase that their whole bodies and minds were dedicated to saying. Whose eyes are those eyes? That phrase seeped from the mouths of the 100 people there, despite their smiles. The chant rose as nothing more than a flat, emotionless murmur, echoing throughout the park, like a Buddhist sutra. Naturally, due to the bizarre state that people were under, no one else was roaming Miyashita Park. A female office worker on her way home from work and a middle-aged woman walking her dog attempted to pass through, only to find themselves terrified by the strange sight and turning back the way they came. There was only a single man who was paying close attention to that peculiar group. At first glance, it appeared that he too was part of the group, but in actuality, he was standing alone a few meters away from it. Considering his choice in clothing, the man would have blended in quite well in Akihabara. He wore a plaid shirt, deeply worn sneakers, mittens, a red bandana, and a large green rucksack. He was fairly corpulent, which made the buttons on his shirt appear as though they were about to come off. It was late into October, so while the air should have been quite cool, the man's forehead was covered in sweat. In constant war against this, the man attempted to wipe it away with a towel, but to no avail. He looked around restlessly, seemingly unable to calm down, and yet from the way his shoulders moved, he almost appeared as if he was laughing. Ever since they had begun, accompanying the sutra-like chants was a distinct mechanical sound, the origin of which was the man's rucksack. Another high schooler, this one wearing a blazer, entered the park. Instead of flinching at the sight of the peculiar group, she kept her eyes locked onto them as she steadily approached. The way she walked, her long black hair fluttering in the wind, gave off an aura of pure confidence and gallantry. In somewhat of a contrast to this, the girl carried a half-eaten popsicle in her hand. The group paid her no mind. They were completely absorbed in their own world, continuing to repeat the same phrase over and over again. Being ignored did not faze her either. She did not even raise an eyebrow. Then, as she was drawing closer to the group, she suddenly stopped. She nibbled at the popsicle while remaining thoroughly composed. Nibble.png, apparently. As she chewed, the distinct sound of crunching escaped her mouth. Once she finished eating, the girl looked at the stick left behind by the treat, clicked her tongue, and tossed it away at her feet. Her eyes sharp as ever, her gaze slowly moved over the faces of each individual in the group.
Oi, nandayo, omae?
The man with the rucksack shouted at her, the girl now clearly beyond the limit of what he could ignore. Naturally, the girl, Aoi Senna, was well aware that the man had been watching her since she had arrived. With a mocking snort, she abruptly crossed her hands over each other, then strained her arms out in front of her. Then, the area between her hands warped faintly, and the vague shape of a metal rod appeared. It looked similar to a hoe or a shovel, but the shape matched neither of those descriptions. It was a razor-sharp sword with a bifurcated blade. After a moment, it took on a definite shape, and Senna grasped it with both hands. However, it did not end there. Immediately after, a blue light illuminated both sides of the sword Senna was holding, as well as the air directly to the right of her where it was pointed. Just as before, metal pieces appeared from that glowing blue space. As they took shape, they noisily fused with the long blade that appeared before them. At last a ring formed, one from which another long trail of light streaked far to the right. The bifurcated blade traced the trail's trajectory as it came into being. Though one might have originally thought it to be a hoe or a shovel, it was now clear that it had transformed into a gigantic sword. Sharp yet elegant, translucent yet destructive, sinister yet beautiful. With an overwhelming sense of presence, the sword settled in Senna's hands. The man with the rucksack showed no reaction. He simply stared at Senna with a malicious look on his face.
関係者じゃないだろ。あっち行けよ。
With a voice quite high-pitched for a man, he had ordered Senna to leave, accompanying it with a violent gesture. His tone was thoroughly domineering, though he kept his distance from her. Senna, on the other hand, opened her mouth without showing any shift in emotion.
お前が責任者か。
It had seemed to be more of a request for confirmation, rather than an actual question. She rotated her gaze toward the man with the rucksack, locking him in place. In response, the man showed clear signs of bluster, providing a fierce contrast to what he had displayed before then.
答えろ。畑野はどこだ。
Heitano? The man, too paralyzed by fear, was unable to act nor answer her question. The group of people muttering "whose eyes are those eyes" paid no attention to the exchange between the two. Rather, their eyes did not even register it. Senna's gaze met with the man's. The first to avert their eyes was him.
誰だよそれ。例えしてても教えないけどな。
Oh, then I'm afraid I have to kill you. I was kidding! Remaining silent, Senna had brandished the greatsword she was holding in both hands in a Kasumi no Kamae stance. She then slowly lowered her hips, and then she cast her upper body forward. Hold on. Kasumi no Kamae. Translated as mist stance. It's a type of stance utilized in sword fights. The sword is held horizontally, with the hilt beside the face, and the top of the blade pointed toward the opponent. It is a stance often employed in many ancient styles of swordsmanship. The sword was held at eye level for the purpose of severing the eyes of the opponent with a single horizontal strike. It is said that the name comes from the opponent's vision going blurry, hence the word Kasumi. Oh, cool. Oh, it turned purple. The sword emitted light once more. But unlike before, what it released was not a blue light, but a light blending together a fierce purple and red. Suddenly, a high-pitched screech resembling a woman's scream resounded. The atmosphere between her and the man was warped with anger. But not in the metaphorical manner. It was entirely physical. The very air itself vibrated, converging toward the sword Senna was holding. The red glow of the sword became inconceivably intense to the point of dazzlement. Senna took a small breath and gritted her teeth. Did you kill him? A booming sound roared. A shower of sparks surged. A sonic wave erupted, one that sought to blow away the air itself. The vibration in the air then immediately subsided. The sword, however, continued to flicker with a brilliant red glow, one reminiscent of pulsing blood. Senna slowly pointed the tip of her sword directly at the man. As one would expect, the previously indifferent group started showing signs of agitation. Bewildered, they all started running away as if they had returned to their senses. Senna paid them no mind. She simply kept her eyes locked onto the single man with the rucksack. The man, who until now had shown no clear signs of fear, began to panic. He started taking a few steps back, his face turning pale. He shook his head in denial.
待って俺は畑野なんてやつ本当に知らないんだただ指示されただけ
誤解するなと言ったはず。
Senna did not even remotely entertain the man's supplications.
質問したのはただの挨拶代わりだ。
Fair enough.
お前が何を答えたってそれを壊すことに変わりはない。
A fierce glitter dwelled within her eyes. The man shrieked pitifully, turned on his heel, and attempted to flee. However, the group which had only just dispersed was now running away in confusion. His escape route blocked, the man who had grown far beyond frantic stopped dead in his tracks. At that very moment, Senna kicked off the ground and closed the gap between her and the man's back. Damn! It was a blow so swift. It was hard to conceptualize that it had come from Senna's slender arms. The blade swept horizontally, shredding the rucksack the man was carrying. The impact blew the man away. He collapsed to the ground and curled into a ball, covering his head with his hands. Having lost the will to flee, all the man could do was tremble. His groin was now sodden, the man having become incontinent out of fear. Senna walked over to the man and, without paying him any mind, gazed down at the contents of the destroyed rucksack. I'm assuming it was like a machine that was emitting some sort of sound. A collection of small sparks spurted out from within, emitting a crackling sound. But there was a device inside. Its shape might have originally called to mind a device one size larger than a modem, but after being demolished by Senna's D-sword, it was now in pieces. It could not be of any use anymore. The deafening mechanical sound that had been coming from within the rucksack could no longer be heard.
Nozomi.
Nozomi? Muttering to no one in particular, Senna's voice oozed with hatred. That's the name of the company, Nozomi! Okay, so the old that freaky guy said something about him being told to do something. He was given a device, and that device was emitting something that was affecting a group of people. And upon disrupting the sound, the people that were in a trance were finally able to kind of snap out of it and run away. Granted, she destroyed the device, and then we got that important tidbit, Nozomi, the name of a company logo that has been brandished a few times throughout this story, showing that they are clearly involved, like, completely with what the hell is going on here. The real question is, who gave that guy that device and told him to do whatever was being done over there? If I didn't know any better, it might have something to do with the actual new-gen killings, because it really does seem like this is just involving some actual mind control. These people are being manipulated to do things, like those people that fell off of the roof. For a moment, they were terrified, and then, just out of nowhere, they all jumped off the roof. So effortlessly. These people are being mind controlled by a company, but to what purpose? Why? You know, I gotta give credit. I'm getting really, really fucking hooked on this. So if y'all like this, be sure to let me know. Thank you all very much for watching, and god dang, this is actually really, really freaking good.